Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving into the life story of Phil Robertson. Now, you might know the name, perhaps, from that hugely popular TV show about ducks.
Right, Duck Dynasty.
But the material you shared with us, this profile covering his life, career, and, those controversies, it reveals a story that's, well, far more layered.
Yeah.
Maybe even surprising than just that one show suggests.
That's right. I mean, he's widely known as the patriarch from Duck Dynasty, sure, and the founder of Duck Commander.
Yeah?
But this material, it lays out a whole trajectory of experiences, choices, significant moments that really shaped the figure he became, both in public and, privately.
Exactly. So our mission in this deep dive really is to guide you through those key points we've pulled from this material, the surprising details, the pivotal decisions, the events that made headlines. We want to help you get quickly informed on the fascinating journey of his life, pulling out the most interesting nuggets we found along the way.
So where do we start? The beginning, I guess?
Let's start right at the beginning, just like the material you provided lays it out. Phil Alexander Robertson. Born April 24th, 1946, in Vivian, Louisiana. He was the fifth of 7 kids.
And the picture painted of his childhood here is one of serious ruggedness. We're talking living conditions with no electricity,
Wow.
no indoor toilet, no bathtub, really basic.
A really self-sufficient way of life described here, then.
Yeah, the family essentially lived off the land, relied heavily on their garden, hunting, fishing, raising animals.
Right.
Pigs, chickens, cattle. They apparently rarely bought groceries in town.
There's a quote in his memoir, Happy, 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 that's highlighted in the material. It really captures this era, doesn't it?
It does. He recalled, and let me get the quote right. It was the 1950s when I was a young boy, but we lived like it was the 1850s.
Like the 1850s.
But we were always happy, 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 no matter the circumstances.
Happy, 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 yeah. The profile even mentions his restored log cabin birth home is still standing near Vivian.
That's interesting. So beyond that really unique upbringing, the material makes a point of highlighting his significant athletic talent in high school.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all state in football, baseball, and track. And that performance earned him a scholarship to Louisiana Tech.
Okay, Louisiana Tech. And here's where it gets particularly interesting, especially if you're a sports fan reading this profile. At Louisiana Tech in the late 60s, he wasn't just, on the team. He played first-string quarterback. In 1966 and 1967.
First string. Okay.
And get this, that was ahead of Terry Bradshaw.
The Terry Bradshaw.
The Terry Bradshaw, who would, of course, go on to become a Pro Football Hall of Famer, first overall pick in the 1970 NFL Draft.
Wow. Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
The material notes Bradshaw, who came from nearby Shreveport, was apparently a media sensation when he arrived at Tech in '66.
Yeah, huge hype.
But Robertson was the starter ahead of him for 2 seasons. Then Robertson chose not to lay his senior year in '68.
Looking at his college passing stats, provide here 179 completions, 411 attempts, 2,237 yards, 12 TDs, 34 interceptions. I mean, you see someone with real potential there.
Definitely. But despite that potential, his true passion, as this profile really emphasizes, it just wasn't football. Not at all.
That's the striking detail, right? The material includes a quote from Terry Bradshaw himself reflecting on this.
Oh, what did Bradshaw say?
He said, Phil Robertson loved hunting more than he loved football. He'd come to practice directly from the woods, squirrel tails hanging out of his pockets, duck feathers on his clothes.
Squirrel tails in his pockets at football practice.
That's what Bradshaw said. Clearly he was a fine shot, so no one complained too much.
Okay, well, that anecdote right there, that tells you pretty much everything you need to know about his priorities, even back then.
Exactly. And it explains why, when he was actually offered a professional contract by the Washington Redskins.
He got an NFL offer.
Yep. He declined it. And the reason, according to the material, it conflicted with hunting season.
Hunting season, wow. He really chose the Ducks over the Bucks.
He famously contrasted his path with Bradshaw's, saying exactly that. Terry went for the Bucks, and I chased after the Ducks.
Huh. It really underscores that early defining choice. Prioritizing his passion for the outdoors over, well, a potential NFL career.
Though he stepped away from football, the material does point out he continued his education. He earned a bachelor's degree in physical education.
Okay.
And later a master's in education.
So he had that academic background, but the path didn't stay in education permanently. The profile mentions he spent several years teaching.
Right.
Before shifting to commercial fishing. There's also a note about a period of strain in his marriage during the 1970s, with a specific detail that he was running a bar in 1975.
Running a bar. Okay, so This period of transition, marked by some personal challenges, it seems, it looks like it directly precedes the birth of something that would change everything. Duck Commander?
Right. As an avid duck hunter, the material notes his frustration, his dissatisfaction with the existing duck calls on the market back then.
Yeah, they just weren't good enough for him.
Apparently not. So the material explains he started experimenting, driven by this desire to produce the exact sound of a duck.
Right, getting that perfect quack.
Precisely. And this led him to invent his first call in 1972.
He received a patent for that invention, and then the Duck Commander Company was officially incorporated in 1973.
And the material notes that today it's a multi-million-dollar business, now led by his son, Willie Robertson.
And of course, it was the successful family business that really provided the whole setting for that hugely popular A&E reality series, Duck Dynasty.
Which ran for quite a while, 2012 to 2017, chronicling their daily lives, all centered around the company.
Shifting now to his personal life a bit more, the profile highlights his relationship with Marcia Miss Kay Carraway.
High school sweethearts, married way back in 1966.
The material does acknowledge that their early marriage faced significant troubles. It explicitly attributes it to his sex, drugs, and rock and roll lifestyle in his 20s.
Yeah, it even notes a period of separation.
Right. Yet, despite those early difficulties, a Yahoo TV editorial cited in the material describes their union later on as long-standing, rock solid.
Their first son, Alan, was actually born while they were still in college.
A major turning point detailed in the profile is a significant transformation in his life.
Okay.
He credited a religious awakening for helping him overcome those personal problems, specifically mentioning excessive alcohol drinking.
Ah, okay. So a big change. He's described as a devout Christian,
Right.
a member and elder at White Spare Road Church of Christ.
Yeah, and the material makes it clear he became very outspoken about his beliefs after that.
Yes, the profile notes his strong opposition to abortion, which he framed publicly as a violation of the Declaration of Independence.
Right, and that he frequently spoke on this issue. His memoir, Happy, 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 which he co-authored with Mark Schlabach, came out in 2013, gave his own account of his life and that transformation.
There was also a significant personal revelation detailed in the material more recently in 2020.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
He learned he had a daughter named Phyllis from an affair that occurred way back in the 1970s, before his religious transformation.
Wow. Okay. That must have been something to process. And even more recently, the profile notes a health diagnosis in 2024, Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah, that was mentioned. So this brings us to his role as a public figure, which, especially after Duck Dynasty took off, included significant political involvement and, of course, some widely publicized controversies.
Yeah, let's touch on the political side first, just strictly reporting what's in the material you provided here. He made several endorsements. Notably, he endorsed Vance McAllister in a 2013 special election. And the profile actually states his endorsement was seen as a key factor in McAllister's unexpected come-from-behind victory.
Interesting. So his voice carried weight there.
Seems like it. He also endorsed Ted Cruz in 2016 for president.
Okay.
And then shifted his support to Donald Trump after Cruz dropped out of the race.
Got it. And later in 2017, he endorsed Roy Moore in that Alabama runoff Senate election.
Right. He even gave a speech at a Moore rally where he defended keeping the Ten Commandments on display in courtrooms.
The material also points out that around late 2016 or early 2017, he filled Ben Carson's vacancy as chairman of the American Legacy Center's Fight for the Court project.
Okay. Now, turning to the controversies detailed in the profile. The most prominent one, probably the one most people remember, involved that interview with GQ magazine in 2013.
Ah, yes, for their January 2014 issue. The article titled, What the Duck?
That's the one. The material reports that when asked about sin, he responded. And this is quoting from the profile's account. Start with homosexual behavior and just morph out from there. Bestiality, sleeping around with this woman and that woman and that woman and those men.
Strong words.
Then he paraphrased a biblical passage from 1 Corinthians saying, don't be deceived. Neither the adulterers, the idolaters, the male prostitutes, the homosexual offenders, the greedy, the drunkards, the slanderers, the swindlers, they won't inherit the kingdom of God. Don't deceive yourself. It's not right.
The material also notes he made a comment questioning the appeal of same-sex relationships compared to, well, female anatomy.
Right. The profile does highlight his follow-up statement, though, where he stated he doesn't judge anyone and leaves it up to God. He said, We just love them, give them the good news about Jesus, whether they're homosexuals, drunks, terrorists. We let God sort them out later. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. And the immediate consequence, as reported, was A&E indefinitely suspended him from the show.
Yeah, that happened fast. Came after they released a statement from Robertson himself saying he would never treat anyone with disrespect just because they are different from me.
But the profile details a swift and, well, strong backlash against the suspension.
Oh, yeah, huge backlash.
Yeah.
This included a Facebook page supporting him that apparently got like 1.5 million likes very quickly.
Wow.
And public statements from various political figures condemning A&E's decision.
So what was the result?
A&E lifted the suspension after only 9 days. No episodes of the show were actually affected in the end.
9 days, okay. The profile also details further controversial comments made in 2015, this time at the Conservative Political Action Conference, CPAC.
Right, where he received the Breitbart Defender of the First Amendment Award.
And during a half-hour speech there, the material reports he asserted that STDs were the legacy of Nazis, communists, beatniks, and hippies.
Oh, quite a statement.
Yeah. The profile also includes the specific detail of a long, pretty graphic anecdote he told during that same speech. It was about an atheist family being murdered,
Oh, boy.
where the assailants supposedly justified their actions by saying the atheists believed that there was no God, there's no right, there's no wrong.
And the material notes that these particular statements went viral at the time.
Unsurprisingly, yeah.
So, beyond the reality show and these big politicized controversies, the material mentions his appearance in Steve Bannon's film Torchbearer.
Okay. What was that about?
He discussed his views on the absurdity of life without God in that film.
Gotcha. The profile also notes that in October 2017, he joined CRTV as a contributor, started hosting a show called In the Woods with Phil.
Right. And more recently, in 2023, there was that film The Blind, the true story of the Robertson family.
Ah, yeah, The Blind. The material you provided states this movie specifically details his tumultuous early life, his wife's experiences too, and their family story leading up to about 1985.
So basically covering the period before all the Duck Dynasty fame hit.
Exactly. Pre-fame story.
Finally, the material brings us to the end of his life story. It reports his death on May 25, 2025 at the age of 79.
79. While no specific cause of death was revealed in the material we looked at, it does reference his known health issues, including that Alzheimer's diagnosis mentioned earlier.
Yeah. According to the profile, his daughter-in-law stated at the time that a private service was planned for the family, along with a public celebration of life later on.
Okay.
So pulling all these threads together from the material you shared,
Okay.
we've journeyed through a life that's starting with this genuinely unconventional, really self-sufficient youth. It included surprising athletic talent, where he made that huge choice, prioritizing passion over a potential major league career.
Right. The Ducks over the Bucks.
A pivot through teaching and fishing to becoming an inventor and, very successful businessman.
Yeah.
Deep personal struggles leading to a pretty profound faith-driven transformation.
Then the unexpected explosion into reality TV fame.
Huge fame. And then the significant public controversies, really rooted in his outspoken beliefs, and finally a later return to other media projects before his passing.
Right. Extracting these details from the source material, it really lets us see the multiple dimensions of a figure who was, yes, widely known, but perhaps primarily through the lens of a TV character or maybe a news headline.
Yeah.
It highlights the complexities and, the different phases beneath that public surface.
And that leaves us with maybe a provocative thought for you, the listener, as you consider all the information we've just unpacked from this material. Think about how deeply held personal beliefs, especially for someone living such a high-profile public life like he did, how they can not only shape their actions and choices, but also generate such widely varying, sometimes really intense reactions from the world around them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right.
What does this deep dive into his story, drawing from this profile, tell us about that intersection? The intersection of private conviction and public perception, something to think about.